In the summer of 1978, inside a studio in London, a 19-year-old girl was recording what would become one of the most important punk albums ever made. She had a voice like a fire alarm. She wore metal braces on her teeth on purpose, and she wrote lyrics about plastic and bondage and identity that scared the men in the control room. Everyone who walked past the studio door knew they were watching a genius at work. And then, one night after a show in Doncaster, she stepped outside onto a wet northern street, looked up at the sky, and saw it. A bright pink ball of light, hovering, pulsing, alive. She called it a day-glow UFO. She told her bandmates. She told her mother. She told anyone who would listen. And within weeks, she was locked inside a mental hospital, strapped to a bed, being told she was insane. Her name was Marianne Joan Elliott-Said. The world knew her as Poly Styrene, and the industry that was about to crown her the next big thing would instead spend the next 30 years pretending she had never existed. Before I tell you the rest of this story, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me keep bringing you the stories the rock establishment would rather you forget. Now let me show you who Poly Styrene really was. She was born on the 3rd of July, 1957 in Bromley, Kent, and raised in Brixton in South London. Her father was a Somali dispatch clerk, a man she would barely know. Her mother was a Scottish-Irish legal secretary, still a teenager herself when Marianne was born. They were not a normal family in the Britain of the 60s. They were a mixed-race household in a city that did not know what to do with them, and Marianne spent her childhood getting stared at, getting questioned, getting called names by both white kids and black kids. She did not belong anywhere. She was an outsider from the start, and she learned very young that the only protection against a world that would not see you was to be impossible to ignore. So she started making her own world. At 15, she ran away from home with nothing but a notebook and a sleeping bag. She slept on beaches in Hastings. She sold secondhand clothes at Portobello Market. She wrote poetry on the back of receipts. She dyed her hair bright orange before anyone in Britain had heard the word punk. And then, in early July 1976, on the weekend of her 19th birthday, she walked into a small club in Hastings and watched a band called the Sex Pistols destroy a stage. And something inside her clicked into place. She went home, looked in the mirror, and gave herself a new name, Poly Styrene, like the plastic, disposable, mass-produced, synthetic. A name that was a joke and a weapon at the same time. Within weeks, she had placed a classified ad in Melody Maker looking for young punks to start a band. She found a 15-year-old saxophone player called Laura Logic. She found a bassist, a guitarist, a drummer. She called the band X-Ray Spex because she liked the idea of seeing straight through everything. The advertising, the fashion, the bodies, the lies. And in 1977, barely a year after that first Sex Pistols gig, she walked into a studio and recorded a song that started with a scream. Not a pretty scream. A feral, full-throated, unfiltered shriek, followed by a single sentence. Some people think little girls should be seen and not heard. And then she screamed the title, "Oh, Bondage Up Yours." It came out as a single in September 1977, and the British music press did not know what to do with it. It was the loudest, angriest, funniest, smartest thing anyone had put on vinyl that year. It was a song about consumerism and control and patriarchy, written by a 19-year-old biracial girl in a plastic dress. And it was, in every possible way, the opposite of what punk was supposed to look like. When the press asked her what the song was about, She said it was about being owned by advertising, by men, by your own reflection in a shop window. Nobody in Britain had heard a woman talk like that on the radio. People crashed their cars when it came on. Because here is the part that nobody talks about. Punk in 1977 was already becoming a cliché. The King's Road uniform, the safety pins, the bondage trousers sold by Vivienne Westwood for 20 pounds apiece, the sneering white boys in leather jackets. Poly looked at all of it and said no. She wore braces on her teeth on purpose because the industry told her to smile for the camera. She wore army surplus and plastic trash bags because she refused to be sexy for anyone. And then one night on live television on Top of the Pops, she shaved her head on camera because a magazine had called her a sex symbol and she wanted to physically destroy the word. The producers did not know what to do. The cameramen did not know where to point. A generation of girls watching at home never forgot. Her bandmates begged her to stop. Her manager threatened to drop her. The BBC nearly pulled the plug on air. And Poly just kept going, pieces of her orange hair falling around her feet, staring straight into the camera like she was daring the entire country to look away. And then, in 1978, it all came together. X-Ray Spex released their debut album, Germ-Free Adolescence. It was a masterpiece. The Day the World Turned Dayglow hit the UK Top 25. Identity, a song about a girl seeing her own face shattered in a mirror, hit 24. The title track cracked the top 20. Every song on that record was a small essay about what it meant to be a human being inside a machine that only wanted to sell you things. Poly was on every cover, in every magazine, on every television show in Britain. She was 20 years old. She was a star, and she was starting to come apart. Because while the cameras were pointed at her, something else was happening inside her head. The studio lights were too bright. The voices in the hallways were too loud. The questions the journalists asked her stopped making sense. She started seeing patterns in the wallpaper. She started hearing meanings that were not there. She would later say that fame did not cause her breakdown. It just turned up the volume on something that was already inside her. And then came Doncaster. The band had played a show at the Outlook Club, and afterward, standing on the street under a street lamp, Poly looked up and saw a pink ball of light moving across the sky. Not a plane, not a star, a pink fireball, pulsing, and she was sure, absolutely sure, it was looking back at her. She ran back inside and told everyone. She would not stop talking about it. She wrote about it on napkins. She drew it in her notebook. She said it had come to deliver her a message. And the people around her, her band, her management, her own mother, decided that she had lost her mind. Within days, she was admitted to a psychiatric hospital in London. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia. She was put on drugs that left her unable to sing, unable to write, unable to feel her own hands. She was 21 years old. And the music industry, which had been ready to make her the next big thing, walked away overnight. She quit X-Ray Spex in 1979. At the absolute peak of her fame, she disappeared. She shaved her head again, this time for herself, and joined the Hare Krishna movement, moving into a temple in Hertfordshire, looking for silence, looking for a way to put the volume back down. And the British music press, which had adored her 6 months earlier, turned on her with breathtaking cruelty. They wrote that she had gone crazy. They wrote that she was a cult member. They wrote her off as a punk curiosity, a footnote. a warning about what happens to girls who try to play in a boys' game. And for 12 years, nobody looked any closer. For 12 years, she lived with a diagnosis that was completely wrong. It was not until 1991 that a different doctor sat down with her and told her the truth. She did not have schizophrenia. She had bipolar disorder. 12 years of the wrong medication. 12 years of being told she was broken when what she actually needed was something else entirely. 12 years of her 20s and 30s gone. In 1981, while she was still living in the temple, she had a daughter. She named her Celeste, and she raised her alone, mostly in poverty, mostly in silence, moving from flat to flat, trying to stay stable. She would go to Celeste's parent-teacher meetings, and the other moms would whisper, "Is that her? Is that really her?" And Poly would just smile politely and sign the permission slips and walk home. She recorded a solo album nobody bought. She wrote poetry nobody read. Every few years, a magazine would try to find her for a Where Are They Now feature, and she would politely decline. She watched from a distance as Riot Grrrl exploded in the 90s, as Kathleen Hanna cited her in interviews, as Bikini Kill and Huggy Bear and Slater-Kinney built an entire movement on the foundation she had poured in 1977. She watched M.I.A. become a superstar, wearing the same kind of clattering, multicolored, anti-glamour outfits she had worn 20 years earlier. She watched Beth Ditto from Gossip call her a lifeline in interview after interview. She watched FKA Twigs cite her as a blueprint. Her fingerprints were on everything. Her name was on almost nothing. She was a ghost haunting her own influence. And then in 2010, she got sick. A lump in her breast. By the time the doctors found it, it had already spread to her spine. Stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. She was 53 years old. And she was finally, after 3 decades in the wilderness, finishing a real solo album. She called it Generation Indigo. She worked on it from her hospital bed when she was too weak to stand. Her daughter Celeste, now a grown woman and a musician herself, helped her get it across the finish line, singing backup, carrying lyrics to the studio. The album came out in the United States on the 24th of April, 2011. Poly Styrene died the next day, the 25th of April, 2011. She did not live to see a single review. She did not live to read the obituaries that finally called her a pioneer. Celeste spent the next 10 years putting her mother's story back together. She made a documentary called Poly Styrene, I Am a Cliché. She co-wrote a biography. She digitized the notebooks. She tracked down the lost interviews. And piece by piece, a different Poly Styrene came into focus. Not the crazy girl who saw a UFO, not the punk novelty in the plastic dress, but a mixed-race teenager who walked into a room full of white boys in 1977 and rewrote the rules of rebellion. A woman who refused to be sexy, refused to be quiet, refused to be anyone's mascot, and paid for every single refusal with a piece of her own peace of mind. She did not die broke. She did not die on a stage. She died in a bed with her daughter next to her, knowing that the album she had fought to finish was finally out in the world. She burned bright. She burned on her own terms. And every single time you hear a woman scream into a microphone about identity or consumerism or her own body, you are hearing the echo of a girl in braces standing in a London studio in 1977, yelling, "Oh, bondage up yours," at the top of her lungs. If this story moved you, Hit the like button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And right now, click on the video showing up on your screen. Another woman who burned bright in a world that tried to put her out is waiting there for you.